We do know that there are former members of the CMU staff that were also um, members of U of M's staff. So, I think without naming names here, I think that's a really interesting connection.
Because it's not just like one person, it's multiple. It's like 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the elevators that lead downstairs. That's basically where like all the nutrition centers are at. It's where our food tables are at,
Right on.
and that's where they keep training staff. And then equipment room is down there as well. And then there's like a bunch of VIP like seating areas. I'll explain that. So this is
Okay.
as I mentioned before, I helped out with the formation boards and whatnot. So signals. And this is the phone call that I received almost 2 months after being essentially removed off the job.
Twin, where you been at? We've been missing you. Can't get the boards right.
Now, it was a little bit hard for me to understand, but it sounded something along the lines of, "Ayo, twin, where you been at? We've been missing you. Come here and get the boards out."
The emotions that
It's
it
weird.
brings back.
It's weird thinking about it because I spent so much time here my freshman year, and now just coming back as a student, it's kind of noted on the NCAA's Committee of Infractions, actually database tracker. There are 3 instances from I think August, November, and then
January also?
I believe January, where a staff member gave false or conflicting information to the NCAA. So, and that's what kind of made them. That's what delayed their investigation so long. So,
Right on.
so yeah, it's all the pieces matter.
Yeah. What everybody wants to know kind of is how did he get on that sideline? Who gave him the close? Who gave him the pass? And really, how many members of that staff were implicit in, letting him steal sign? The following conversation is with my friend and current Central Michigan student, Charles Hunsinger. Charles worked with Central Michigan football for almost 2 years in 2 different seasons, serving in different roles in both seasons. His role as offensive student assistant in the fall of 2023 really gives us a crucial insight and a window into how that coaching staff operated and uh, how the play calling was handled, and also really gives us a opportunity to see how such collusion and cronyism was able to take place between Connor Stallions and members of the Central Michigan staff. So, without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this interview. But first, if you want to see more interviews like this, please like, comment, subscribe. Anything helps. And also, if you want to hit that notification bell for my daily updates, where I tell you guys everything you want to know about Detroit sports, hit that bell so a small channel like mine doesn't get lost in the algorithm. Anyways, with that being said, please enjoy the. How's it going, everybody? This is Gordy, and this is Mr. Charles Hunsinger, who I will be interviewing today. Charles, how's it going, man?
I'm doing okay. How about you, Gordon?
Good to be here in Mount Pleasant, man.
Nice to have you up here finally.
Yeah, I know. It's taken me a while to get up here, but yeah. This is the second episode of the podcast. So
Second episode, part 2. Actually, no, not part 2. No.
This is part 1. We have some on the scene clips that I'll put in the video as well. But my good friend Charles here has had some previous experience with the Central Michigan football program. And as we know, what is happening currently, the NCAA just dropped the hammer on Michigan. That included the what was it, 50K in fines and the show clause for
Not even 50K. They're like 30 million.
Yeah, let's see.
It's going to be about like 35 to 40 with all the TV revenue taken out,
Right.
and all the bowl and college football losses because they don't get a penny of it.
Yeah.
That's why they're appealing it, because they want that money.
Yeah. So one thing that I really wanted to touch on with this whole story um is really it's interesting because usually when you have a controversy in college sports, usually it's an isolated program. It's usually just what's happening in one coaching staff. But this one was interesting. This seemed to be a story of connections that went way back and some, under the table, deals. And Really, the interesting part was that Michigan and Central Michigan were both implicated, uh, and also both um, investigated and eventually. I don't know. They have not told what Central Michigan's punishment would be yet?
They have not. They have not released that information yet.
Okay.
They are currently still deciding it. The NCAA Committee of Infractions is still currently deliberating about what CMU's punishment will be. There's
Okay.
been a lot of deliberation online about what might happen. People are saying the death penalty might happen. I do not foresee the NCAA giving CMU a death penalty, especially if they just gave Michigan a show cause and fines. I
Yeah.
foresee a show cause coming for a couple of key staff members of the 2023 staff and maybe a couple of fines and some recruiting implications coming CMU's way. But I don't see any suspensions of any current coaches of the CMU staff.
Right on. Um, so another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about before we get into really the whole story or the timeline of Charles' involvement with the Central Michigan football program and the some of the behind the scenes things that he saw and eventually what might have been a um, a plot that's a lot thicker than I think a lot of us initially thought. So first of all, Chaz, what's your opinion on just the punishments for Michigan? Do you think it's too much, not enough? Do you think it matters? Just overall, your opinion on the whole matter? Because I know growing up, you and I, we both like Michigan. Both have been U of M fans. Big fans of the maize and blue. Definitely over the scarlet and gray or green and white. So um, yeah, just from your perspective, I think that's what I'd like to hear.
Well, I didn't think that any wins were going to be vacated, and the NCAA made a very good point yesterday with mentioning that they didn't really have any grounds to vacate wins because of the fact that Michigan didn't use any ineligible players.
Right.
Now, while suspensions and whatnot could have been handed out more appropriately, I'm not surprised that they suspended Sherrod Moore for an additional game. I didn't think that they were going to go for 2 games. I knew that they wanted to go for 3. What I am surprised about is the fact that they split it up, 2 in this coming season and 1 in 2026. I thought that they would just lump in all 3 into this coming season, but I don't make those decisions, so it's not really my call at the end of the day. And then the financial fines, I'm not really too surprised by that. I think that Michigan not getting the college football playoff money, if they make the college football playoff this coming season, will be a huge factor in their financial budget, in their budget for the 2026 season going into that next year, especially with the House versus NCAA settlement established at about 20.20 and a half million dollars per program, I'd say. So you take out a good chunk of that, Michigan could be looking at some serious losses on that end.
Okay.
So I think it was an appropriate punishment, if you ask me. But compared to other punishments in the past with previous programs, I thought it was also a little bit lenient on the NCAA side. I thought that they might do more to previous members of the coaching staff or maybe to current members of the coaching staff. But at the end of the day, what happened happened. The NCAA had their call.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, I think I'm more so intrigued to see just what the punishment is going to be for CMU, to see if it's going to be something reciprocal or if it's going to be even more heavy-handed than the punishment was for Michigan. I don't know if the NCAA is going to really want to show their ass like that. You know what I mean? Because that really would be rules for me and not for thee kind of situation where they're uh, you know keeping the poster boy nice and polished, but CMU, Maction, whatever. The
Absolutely.
NCAA could more easily disregard the the anger from the base of CMU, which is unfortunate, but
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
how it is.
And I mean that's a very good point. But as you said, I think it would be very hypocritical of the NCAA to give a bigger punishment out to CMU as compared to Michigan. I think that would be really surprising if they did, especially, and as I mentioned, there are no current members of, well, I shouldn't say no, there are very few members of last year's coaching staff on this current uh team right now. And then there are very like even fewer from the 2023 season. I
Right.
think only about three key members stayed, and I think one of them was an on-field assistant, and then two of them were off-field assistants. So if that says anything, so if anything were to happen, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of the members of the coaching staff get show causes and possibly penalties on that end, because a few of them are employed at other schools. I know one of them that was probably involved last year is at another MAC school right now. So,
There's some
but
potential for
there is definitely some
further.
potential for staff suspensions, but not on CMU's end.
Okay.
Not on CMU's end for sure.
Okay. Right on. Also, one thing that you've told me about before, talking previously before the podcast, this new CMU program, this new coaching staff. Um, do you think, like, I want you to give me your opinion on the new staff. I know it's a little early to say because we haven't, seen a whole lot, but um, do you like the direction that they're going in? And I just want you to give an opportunity to, you know, we don't want to make it look like we're purposefully dumping on Central Michigan. More so, we are just trying to uncover the facts and give a timeline of events. So, um, yeah, anything you want to say about the new coaching staff and administration?
I got to meet with Coach Drinkle actually back in April. We had the Sport Management Association conference
Mm,
over in the Health Professions building, and he attended one of our sessions, and I actually got to speak with him at length. And he has a really good energy about him, and I like the positivity and like his outreach into the CMU community. One thing that I think the previous football administration failed to do, and a lot of people will say this, is the fact that they failed to connect with anybody in the CMU and anybody in the Mount Pleasant community. There's not a lot of outreach. Um, the spring game became a non-factor. Like it became very quiet. You didn't see many news articles about CMU football in the paper. There wasn't much in like the Morning Sun or CM Life about it, and it was hard to get any information out of any coaching staff or out of
yeah,
any of the coaching staff because they had practice closed off, and they only took select media. So, and even then, those media sessions aren't really open.
right.
So, yeah, he's making a huge difference on that end, and like it's noticeable. Like on Twitter, he and his recruiting staff are doing a lot. They are making the effort to connect. Like the other day, I just saw that he and the entire offensive line just went out for ice cream at Doozies, which is over on Pickard, which is a really good ice cream place.
Yeah,
And like we love that spot. That's
yeah,
like cash only. It's OG. And then just like his entire coaching staff and the recruiting staff, they're making an effort to recruit kids in the Michigan area and recruit kids that are in the local area. They're making that effort to connect with everybody, and they're making an effort to get themselves out there. And I really like that because, as I said, the previous staff, in my opinion, did not do that. So I like the fact that they're going about that. And I also like the fact that he's putting his foot forward and like establishing that it's like a buy-in program. If you put in, you're gonna get what you put in out of it.
yeah.
So if you devote yourself to it, if you're actually about it, you're right off. So, um, and also the fact I noticed something in one of these news articles I was reading about him. He has his staff out of the building by 5 p.m. every day. I really like that
I read that
because
article too. You were talking about that. Yeah,
that shows to me that he's very true about his family ideals and whatnot. He actually cares about his staff having a true connection with their family because that's something that's hard to come by,
for sure.
especially during the season. I mean, you look at the SEC, you look at the ACC. I mean, even the Big Ten. These coaches don't see their families until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe even 3 or 4. Some of
Yeah,
them do all nighters at the office. I know some people that did back in 2022 and 2023. It was absolutely ridiculous.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's tough. But a lot of positives for the new a new step, a new direction for Central Michigan.
Definitely. And, with a lot of the people that he's brought in, it's a lot of people that, he's familiar with and people that are going to make a big impact.
Yeah.
So I really like his defensive coordinator, Sean Cronin. I think he's going to do a great job. He's also our linebackers coach. I like the fact that he kept Keith Murphy, who's special teams coordinator right now. He's one of the best special teams coordinators in the nation, if I dare say so myself. He's paid like so, which is definitely worth it.
Yeah.
He's one of the people that we needed to keep. Um, I like Jim Chaplin as our OC and quarterbacks coach. I think that's going to be a really key area of development for us this year. And I think bringing him in after his really good previous experience at previous stops is going to be like instrumental for us. So, and then just rebuilding our offensive line. Hayden Mace is going to do a great job with that offensive line this year. He's going to hopefully get us back in the run for having a good ground game. Hopefully have another season like we had Lou Nichols back in 2021. So
Awesome,
I'd
man.
like to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. So sounds like Central Michigan is gonna start maybe being able to throw their weight around a little bit
A
in
little
the
bit.
MAC.
Depends. Their schedule is a little tough this year. They do play Michigan, so
Yeah,
that's going to be a little bit of a road test.
for sure.
And they play some pretty good teams this year. I do believe that they also play Pitt. So
Mhm.
we might not. I'm not saying we're going to win every game, and I'm
Yeah.
not expecting us to win every game. But to be brutally honest, I don't really care about records this year. I just want to see how the team does and how the team responds to them. Because last year and the year before it just looked like broken teams to me.
Yeah.
So
Right on. Um, with that being said, thank you. That was a great breakdown. That was even more than I was expecting from this new team. But thank you so much, Shaw's.
yeah, no problem.
So what I want to get to in the next segment is just the timeline of events, um, from your involvement with the program, and then eventually how that overlaps with uh Connor Stallions, slight, with his minor amount of involvement with the program, as well as the overarching story of um how's it going, everybody? Back for segment two of Gordy's Detroit Sports Catch Up. And today is my special interview with my good friend here, Charles Hunsinger. Um, Charles, let's talk about your time with Central Michigan and really, when did it all start?
So I figured out that I wanted to go to CMU like March of 2022. So basically right before we graduated high school. And so right around there is when I was trying to reach out. I actually toured here and got a really good feel for the campus. And so I was trying to figure out, how to get involved with the football team here because I was a manager in high school for both wrestling and football, and I really wanted to go down that route in college
Yep.
at the time. And so I reached out to a few key people. I sent an email to he was the unofficial director of football operations at the time. Um, and I DM'd him on Twitter, and he got me in touch with the equipment team, and so I became an equipment intern for part of the 2022 season. So I actually ended up moving up here um, in the first week of August of 2022 in the dorms before anyone else was in there. So it's like first week of August, I think like literally, I think it was like August 3rd or 4th that I
Okay.
was in there.
And that was your very first year.
It was my freshman year here at Central Michigan. Yep.
Yeah, right on.
So, and I helped out with the equipment team. I did work for them and whatnot. Helped out coaching staff as an equipment intern. It was pretty neat.
Mhm.
So, and it went well. I traveled to Oklahoma State in late August of 2022. That was a really cool game, really cool environment. Boone Pickens Stadium is awesome, and Stillwater has an awesome college environment. I definitely would go back and visit that area in Oklahoma for sure.
Yeah.
And um, I didn't travel to Penn State because we rotated equipment guys. They let different guys go to different road games. So that way, not just one person got to like hog all of it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. They made it fair, which I respect. But I kind of started having some mental health issues. I guess is the best way to put it. I became very depressed, and I was going through it really badly at the time. Around October, I was dealing with a bit of homesickness and a lot of stress at the time, financial issues as well, and just I didn't feel like myself, and it just didn't feel right. So I ended up leaving the team in the middle of October. My last game was the Bowling Green game here at home in October 2022. Forgot what day that was, but I think it was around middle of it, maybe the 19th. Can't remember exactly. But and then I stopped for some time. I took some time off, kind of got my bearings back in control. I did some social media work for CMU Wrestling for a minute, helped out with one of their open meets at the Michigan State Open, and then just kind of focused on school after that for a little bit through December and January. And then I noticed in February that there were 4 new hires on the coaching staff. And this is February 2023 now.
Yep.
So I decided to reach out to one of the members of the coaching staff, notably on the offensive side, who worked pretty closely with the play callers and the leaders of the offense, so QBs, and asked them, if I could, work under them as a student assistant, and they let me come on. It actually went pretty well for some time. It was really enjoyable work. I liked it, but the hours were kind of strange. I hate to say it like this, but like they kind of would try and like make you not go to class. They wouldn't like directly tell you, but they kind of like implicate towards you, like, oh, you can skip that. It's like, no, that's not skippable. I'm a student. Like I have to go to this.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry that my schedule is the way that it is, but there's nothing I can really do about that.
Right.
So, um, and just some people just were not great about student assistance. Not every single coach is, keen about having, people help out and actually trying to learn. So, and they had me in charge of the formation boards though. So that was a pretty interesting job at the time. So, holding up like those big boards with like all the different symbols on them. Like I forgot the ones that we had. One of them was the Migos, one of them was like a train.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you what they were though.
The stuff that's irrelevant now because of this whole debacle.
Yeah, and also I mean the in helmet comps too.
Yeah,
has
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that too.
yeah.
So, but yeah, no. So basically helped out all the way up until May, and then I went home for summer break. And over summer break, I was actively recruiting kids to come to football camp. And so went to I went to Greek camp. I worked out at this summer camp like I usually did that summer. And so yeah, I was at Greek camp and I got a text from this from the assistant. And so we had been like communicating a little bit over the summer. Like they had reached out to me and been like, hey, how you doing, my man? Like how's your summer going? I was like, hey, appreciate that. Summer's going okay, looking forward to getting back to work and whatnot. Like I made it known that I was like I still wanted to be a part of this.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I went to Greek camp, and so I got a text from them, and I obviously didn't see it because I didn't have my phone at the time. It was a lot to wait for a week.
Yeah.
And so I got my phone back. I texted them. I was like, hey, just got my phone back. All good. Doing pretty well. Just got back from Greek camp, like enjoying myself. And they're like, all right, glad to hear. Enjoy yourself. I said, yes, I did. And so pretty shortly after that, I went out to the lake house out in like St. Joe.
Yep.
And it was like July 8th. I was July 18th. And so they texted me again. And so they asked me, they said, hey, when you think you're coming back to CMU, partner? And I was like, and keep in mind, I was going into my sophomore year at the time. And so all these colleges now, at least most of them, I don't know how it is in like the SEC or ACC or whatever. Or even actually, I know at Michigan State it's 2 years, and in Michigan it's 2 years, but like a lot of these colleges now like require you to stay in the dorms for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like unless you live within, I think it's like 60 municipal miles of like within the campus.
Yeah.
So I had to stay in the dorms again sophomore year. And so I texted him and said, I said, I'm free to come up whenever, I have my car this year, just let me know when. I just need to be able to get in my dorm early. And I sent that text 3 minutes after I got the initial text from this assistant. That assistant never replied to me. And I showed you that text conversation.
Yes. Yep.
And so I found that really strange. And it really kind of irked me. And I reached out to a few people by email, and I never heard back from anybody. And I was kind of like, well, that's not a good sign. That tells me that I've probably been replaced. Because no news does not tell no news is bad.
Yeah. No news is bad news. Yeah.
especially considering that they hadn't really been keeping me like updated and involved with like what was going on at camp and whatnot. Like I noticed like a lot of the other student assistants and whatnot were like up there during like youth camp, but they didn't ask me to come up, and I totally could have.
Yeah.
Which I found really, really strange at the time. So that was something that also irked me. So August came, fall camp opens first week of August,
In the August 23 or 22?
August 23.
23. Okay.
And so I'm just like, okay, haven't heard anything from anybody. I've sent out multiple things. I'm just gonna assume that, I'm not in their plans anymore. That's okay. So I came back to campus as a normal student for the first time ever, which is very interesting to me. Very different perspective going in from your freshman year, moving into the dorms an entire month early before everyone else, to moving in with everyone else, just like a normal college student. And I actually kind of enjoyed it. I had a normal welcome weekend. Like I got to see my friends. I had to pick some friends up. It was, ugh, that's how it goes though.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no. So I actually ran into someone that worked in, they helped out with creative. I'll say it that way. Um, I ran into them and it was an interesting conversation because we they asked me if I was still working with the team, and I said, "You haven't seen me all August. Why would you assume that I'm still working with the team?" They said, "Well, everyone's kind of wondering where you're at." And I said, "I've reached out to multiple people and I never heard back from anybody." I said, "Why is everyone wondering where I'm at when I've made the initiative to reach out?" I said, "That's really weird." So it's just strange. I ended up just walking away from that conversation, but it rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
So after that was just kind of like I settled into my new role as a student instead of a student assistant.
Right.
So I have to admit, I find that lifestyle much more easier and smooth going as compared to my freshman year, which is much more hectic.
Right on.
So
So August 20, September 2023 is kind of where um the whole story with Connor Stallions starts.
mostly September because it was the first game of the year for both
Right.
Michigan and Michigan State, if I do believe so.
Or for Central Michigan and Michigan State.
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Um, and obviously, new reports have came out that he was confirmed on that sideline. But no one really noticed until like late October. Late October is when everything started gaining traction.
Yeah.
Like actually, it's like the middle. It was like middle to like end of October.
Yeah, because I know Halloween the 31st was when the NCAA announced the beginning of the investigation into specifically the sign stealing.
Yes.
Because they already were investigating Michigan previously, I believe, for recruitment violations.
Yes, there was potential recruitment violations going on with an incident at the Brown Jug over some meals that were paid for by a coach. So
Cheeseburger Gate.
yeah, I don't know, something like that.
Cheeseburger Gate.
But
it's my favorite. My favorite controversy name, man. That's awesome. Burger Gate.
But yeah, no, that's like it was like around the middle of October when everything started gaining traction.
Yeah.
And so something that I found interesting was that I received a voicemail near the end of September. It was actually September 28th, and I was in class when I got this voicemail. And I'll actually play it at the time, but it was from one of the GAs at the time that helped out with the offense, but it wasn't the GA on the phone, which I found really strange.
Right, and the phone the phone number that was calling you was on like you didn't
Well, the GA I recognized, but then I had a different one call me, and I didn't recognize that one.
Okay,
and then there's other things, but I'll explain that. So this is
okay.
As I mentioned before, I helped out with the formation boards and whatnot. So signals. And this is the phone call that I received almost 2 months after being essentially removed off the job. Hang on. I have to rewind that. I had to make sure that it was actually gonna play. Now, it was a little bit hard for me to understand, but it sounded something along the lines of, "Ayo, twin, where you been at? Been missing you. Come here, get the boards out here." And what I found really strange is that I didn't call that number back, by the way. I didn't call that GA back. I was in the middle of class. That's disrespectful to a professor. You don't do that. Um, I found that really strange. And then later, I was actually went home. It was my birthday weekend that weekend. And I had plans to celebrate with my family, as one does for their birthday. And so I was driving home and I got a text from one of our former quarterbacks.
Hmm.
And they were asking me where I was at. And I told them that I was going home. And they were like, "Oh." And I said, "Why? What's up?" And I never heard back. And then that night, I did receive a random phone call from a 989 area code, which is Mount Pleasant, Isabella County. And I have no idea where that number could have been traced to, but it felt very strange. And I assumed that it was someone on the coaching staff, but I can't know for sure.
Okay.
So gotta be careful about that.
Right. So really the main thing that I'm looking at here that I find that sticks out to me is um maybe not the means of letting you go. I've heard of companies just kind of ghosting employees, especially when it's like hired work like that. But um to let you go like in that fashion, but then for some people to maybe still be under the impression that you're on the staff and wondering where you are, or for um, the coaches to not make an official means or to rehire you. I think that's what sticks out to me more of a like if they really wanted to.
If they wanted me, they would have made the effort to get me back.
Right.
So I found it very strange that essentially 2 months after the season had already started, that they were calling me to come back. And that to me just stunk.
Yeah.
Something just felt very, very fishy about that phone call and about receiving those messages. And so I conversed with the people that I trust. I conversed with my friends and my family, and all of them agreed. Don't go back. Don't do it. Don't fall for it.
Yeah.
And conveniently enough, the middle of October, things started unwinding. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, on October 31st, photos were found online that Connor Stallions was at Michigan State Stadium on CMU sideline.
Yep. Um. Yeah. I mean, really, really interesting stuff. Especially when we kind of peel back the layers a little bit, and we do know that there are former members of the CMU staff that were also um members of U of M's staff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think without naming names here, I think that's a really interesting connection.
Because it's not just like one person, it's multiple. It's like 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
it's a decent amount.
Um, and all kind of the same age range, all kind of the same.
Similar-ish. One person was significantly older than the others, but most of them were younger, yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's probably, not uncommon for, coaching staffs to or coaches to have their staffs already kind of their guys, whether even if they're working at other schools, get them jobs at, wherever they want to build out their staff. Um, but I think it's interesting that there was that former connection was exploited again.
110%.
And what I kind of wanted to get into is, um, how many different moving pieces, um, it it could have uh kind of come together for this perfect storm, um, that eventually, was Connor Stallions on the sideline, and then, obviously eventually him getting fired. But um, one, what everybody wants to know kind of is how did he get on that sideline? You know, who gave him the close? Who gave him the pass? Um, and really, how many members of that staff were implicit in, you know, letting him steal signs? And reports confirm um, that he also had a hand in uh, helping coaches out with play calling. So that was another thing that I wanted to kind of ask you about. Um, I know it's a little bit tricky territory, but with the way that the at least maybe on the like offensive side, the coaching, you know, was a bit. Would you say it was a bit dysfunctional?
It was dysfunctional. There was no true offensive coordinator at the time. I mean, if you look at the 2023 staff, if you look at what their roles are, you will see that none of them have the official role of offensive coordinator.
Hmm.
From well, at least when I was student assisting and from what I can understand during the season, it was by committee. I believe that it was I I want to say like two or three key members of the offensive staff. You can guess probably which positions. And obviously they each seemed having trump card on all the calls.
Mhm.
So and then just getting support from the booth and whatnot. So because obviously in the normal world of college football, you either have an offensive coordinator or a co-OC. You
Mhm.
never see a team that doesn't have an offensive coordinator named.
Right.
CMU is one of the first teams I've ever seen to do that. It made absolutely no sense. And
Interesting.
when people would ask who's calling plays, they wouldn't elaborate on it.
Hmm.
So I found that really, really interesting. So I don't know whose great idea it was to bring him in to help with play calling, but I'm sorry if you really need like your buddy or somebody to come into the game or come into the stadium to help you call a game, should you even be coaching in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, that's a great point. Um,
I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
yeah, yeah. I really, I feel like that's got to be pretty unprecedented. Somebody from who is officially hired by another school,
In a full employment role with a salary.
right, coming to another school to coach their team.
Exactly.
Pretty unprecedented. One thing I always wonder is the level of culpability of a Jim Harbaugh, of a Sharon Moore, and obviously those are kind of the things that we could speculate about all day.
I gotta be honest, I don't really think anyone at Michigan sent him to this. Sent him to Michigan State, sent him to CMU.
Yeah,
I think it was the other way around. I think that he was asked personally. I don't know by who, but I suspect that he was asked or that he just did it on his own accord because and obviously the NCAA would have found it. They would have seen that someone at Michigan would have ordered him to go and go to CMU. And they would have found that
yeah,
110%. It's hard to not find that, especially considering that they plucked the 52 messages that Sharon Moore deleted
right.
right back from iCloud. And I don't know what they said, but I mean, obviously, they said enough to get him another one game.
Yeah.
Um,
Huh.
so I mean, if someone at Michigan ordered him to go do it, they would have found it. So I believe that it was either of his own accord or someone at CMU asked him to come up here. So it's one of the two. And as to how he got on the field, I don't know. I suspect that someone probably forged the name on the bench pass list and just snuck him in under that alias,
Hmm.
and no one was any the wiser. And then I mean, if you look at his clothing, it's the coaching gear that all the other coaches are wearing. So
Right.
someone, I don't know who, but someone, associated downstairs, had to have gotten him something, or one of the coaches. Honestly, it probably wasn't even someone in equipment. Probably one of the coaches probably just put something aside for him and just had it,
Yeah.
ready for him when he got there. So, and as to how that happened, I have no clue.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Wow. It really the more and more we break it down, it does feel like a Watergate hotel, you know, controversy.
well, yeah, I mean, it's really in depth, man. I mean, it's from all over.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wasn't there, but if I saw somebody with the sunglasses on the sideline in a night game, I might have a second
Yeah,
thought.
I mean, that's the thing is like we were like everyone that night was out. Like we were all out and about. I mean, it's
Yeah.
welcome weekend. So, I mean, welcome weekend / Labor Day weekend, same thing.
Yeah.
Um, And so like everyone was watching the game, but it's like it was like a 7 o'clock kick. So why
Right.
is there a dude wearing sunglasses at 9 o'clock at night? The lights in the stadium are pretty bright, but they're not that bright.
Yeah.
You don't need sunglasses for them.
Yeah. All right. So uh another thing that I kind of wanted to get into, so November is just like the timeline of punishment of guys at Michigan. So we know obviously October 31st, NCAA announces their investigation. Um, by November 3rd, Connor Stallions is
Yeah.
sayonara, persona non grata. See you later.
Mhm.
And then the 10th, about a week later, Harbaugh gets suspended for what was it, 2-3 games for the rest of the season or regular season.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was a really interesting time as a Michigan fan. It really did kind of feel like Michigan versus everybody. Um, it, and also one thing that I do want to touch on um regarding culpability of responsibility of people on the Michigan staff. Um, all right, so lastly, really, I kind of wanted to just wrap a nice bow on this whole thing, kind of summarize. So we know that Central Michigan previously um, failed to cooperate with NCAA investigations, and they
I
said,
wouldn't say it was CMU, but members of the coaching staff, some certain members failed to cooperate. Yes,
yeah, so
because like noted on the NCAA's Committee of Infractions, actually database tracker, there are 3 instances from I think August, November, and then
January was
I
it?
believe January, where a staff member gave false or conflicting information to the NCAA.
Hmm.
So, and that's what kind of made them. That's what delayed their investigation so long. So,
Right on.
so yeah, it's all the pieces matter.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting the level of indignance that the coaches kind of show to the investigating parties. And it kind of, for me at least, calls into question really the authority of the NCAA and how they're viewed. I know, especially in Coach Harbaugh's program, um, he was very pro player, and he had spoken out against the business practices of the NCAA multiple times. So I already knew that relationship was, you could say, on ice. Um, so it really, it doesn't surprise me too much that he got wrapped up in controversy. Now that is not me um, saying if him turning a blind eye to Stallions, or him using any of the play calls, or the knowledge of said play calls to their advantage. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I am saying that there was probably already a friction there. So it makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is the indignance from the perspective of the potential the staff members that were at Central that were obscuring the investigation. So really, I think we have to think about the intentions of these said staff members that were delaying and obscuring the investigation process. And it really, to me, seems like there was a big role between um you know uh, whatever offensive members of the staff and Stallions, and potentially the relationship that went way back to Michigan when they were student assistants, and yeah, the not light corruption, because it is, you would say that it is corruption, collusion at least.
Definitely.
Um,
Definitely collusion.
it's interesting for sure, because like I said previously, between two programs we usually don't see this. So for these individuals to not only turn their backs on the NCAA, which is one thing to do when you're cheating and attempting to gain an advantage, but for them to also uh, betray the trust and the reputation of the universities that employed them is a whole nother thing. And that's where I think you kind of have to separate culpability from the universities to the members of the staff that um, were involved in the controversial actions. Um, but you know, I don't think we'll see something this interesting, at least a story of collusion this interesting for a long time. So yeah. Lastly, what we know right now is that the the hammer is still imminent for for Central.
Whatever that may be.
Whatever that may be.
I don't think it's going to be anything serious.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, especially with the whole new staff and everything.
I think so.
I can't imagine it would be much.
Yeah, I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I think that might be just about everything that I wanted to ask you about today, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. It was a pleasure having you. And who knows, we might you guys might see a little bit more of this guy if we have anything more regarding the story, any more interesting developments, or you know, might just might have you on the pod whenever, man. You're always informative and a good guy to talk to when it comes to anything, sports related. So always great talking to you, man.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man, for
Awesome.
sure.
Awesome time.
Thank you guys for watching the show. If you enjoyed that, please subscribe. Leave me a little comment below if you thought there's anything interesting. Have a suggestion. You have a question for me or for Chaws. Let us know. You wanna hit me up on social media. That's at G Jones or at G or I'm sorry at Gordon J Jones II on Instagram. Chaws, where can they find you?
See Hunsinger 03
on Insta. All right. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. That is Gordy's Detroit Sports Catch Up. See you next time.